A video. Okay, a short one today, I think, because I wanted to thank Bob Greener in his presentation on Hutchison effect as well as the area of the National Defence of Canada, Department of National Defence Canada, Dr. Loken, Dr. Lauren Kuhn, and Dr. Wilson. And Dr. Wilson is the one who's quite intrigued by the uranium ore sample. And so it was very important and kind of described what you're describing. I thought that was interesting, but Dr. Kuhn and Dr. Loken kind of disagreed. Now to Dr. Wilson. The round sphere was approximately about 3 inches in diameter and had a hole, as I call the window, so the alpha beta flux would get outside, of course, and it's focusable, so you can move it around, kind of thing. Now, also, I had 3 electromagnets, approximately 3 feet away in a circular pattern around that area, and a magnetron generator that was close to it, and the spiral spark gap was all part of that whole system, which had alternating current mostly at maybe 50,000 volts AC, all within a very heavily saturated electrostatic field. Excuse me, I was working on something. Time for a smoke, and I'm rushed because I gotta get going in a few minutes. Rushed I am. I look like Willie the Woozle today, don't I? Wow, what a mess. Anyway, who cares? So that where was I? So the device 15 by 17 with the magnetron right next to it, blasting around the circular polished stainless steel ball, which it was doing. Spiral spark gap right nearby. Along on top of the unit was direct current, probably 10 to 20,000 volts direct current. Now the magnetics that are around it, electromagnets, I can but they're all connected to variac, so I can up and down the magnetic pole. Unless somebody's not familiar with electromagnets these days, I don't know. But I could do that as well as pulse it, because I had DC amplifiers and magnetic amplifiers. They're called Navy, U.S. Navy gear. You can offset and phase stuff and pulse it, generate it, square wave, sine wave, any kind of waveform you want. Instead of just alternating current or DC, you can pulse it maybe as I remember, 1 per second, up to several, I think way past 60 cycles. I think it's 1,000 cycles per second. These are all specialty gear. And maybe somebody out there has something like this in their basement, or know about what the hell I'm talking about. Because a lot of this stuff is long forgotten technology, by the way. I'll try and put this thing over here somewhere. But yeah, so electrostatic units usually measured in a million and 10 million volt static generator got built at Art Metal Spinning Supply Company in Vancouver a long time ago. And another Van de Graaff generator that was 500,000 volts. Nicely built, all curved up like they're supposed to be, no sharp points on it. And corona rings I had as well, and the loop antennas. There were loop antennas. There was no one in, I gotta correct you on something. There's no, No windings on the outside, they were all inside. Okay. That put up a very weak magnetic field as well, and a RF field. They were loop antennas off a ship, the Yukon Star, actually, warship, which is, I got those at Adenac Salvage in Vancouver. Freddie and Phil Gaddison Machinery. So I had two, or actually three. Now in the apartment lab, I had similar items, but a lot smaller, because this apartment had all the antennas on the outside, as you may notice, on the balcony. That's a good place for the antennas, but some of the arrays were designed like that, but modernized. These brass antennas were from the 40s and 50s. And the antennas on the balcony were from the 50s, 60s time frame. But had those capabilities and variable loops in them and huge, long ELF type antennas that were off of Columbia, HMCS Columbia. So I got to working with that, understanding it, and putting it all together, and that's when I got all the effects in the apartment. Most of the effects were more so the levitation, but there was a lot of disruptive metals too that appeared once in a while. And you can understand that the mayor of New Westminster, Mayor M. Wright, got a lot of complaints in from these waves going out into people's apartment buildings and houses, and ordered the fire marshal to close me down. Okay? Understandably so. Who wants that kind of nonsense? At the other lab at 13th and Kingsway, we had disappearance of the actual building and metal shelves. That was a huge setup, by the way. It was the same setup that was used on 3744 East Hastings Street, Vancouver, and I got to keep this short. Somebody's coming to pick me up, so why did I do that? Who was involved in this? Mr. Sabao for the Canadian Department of Defense, Dr. Lauren Kuhn, Dr. Loken, Dr. Wilson, Colonel Timothy Deere, Dr. Colonel Larson, Mr. Sabao, Bob Jack, Deputy Prime Minister Eric Nielsen at the time, George Hathaway, Alex Pizarro, and who else? Somebody else. I think that was basically it. And that was 1986, March 24, one full day of filming and writing stuff up. And you can see by the letters from Wilson and Lauren Kuhn, they had fun there. So what they did with actual videos, I don't know. My member of Parliament, Chuck Cook, tried to get him, but he was answered back by letter by Department of National Defense saying this is a matter of national security. We ask you to limit your involvement in trying to retrieve the videotapes. I think he said videotapes or letters, whatever it is. But I did get the trip report from Dr. Kuhn. I have that in my files, and some photographs and other things that Dr. Kuhn has kindly shared with me. The same happened with the U.S. government people. Los Alamos destroyed the tapes, routinely destroyed all the videotapes. Colonel Alexander was rather upset over that. He didn't film, but Los Alamos and their team and I think Naval Research Labs filmed for those weeks or months or whatever it was. That was a long ordeal, but they seemed to know what they're doing. They had all kinds of tubes. One gentleman was carrying tubes, little gas tubes, different shapes, sizes, different gases, and he says this, and he wore a spectrum analyzer around his neck, and he said, this tells me more than all the fancy scientific equipment of these little tubes. So he's measuring all that energy in the walls and mirror. The mirror exploded in that building, 144 Riverside Drive.